Have you ever wondered what ancient stones remember? What secrets they hold of those who died defending them? Dr. Sarah Blackwood's question echoed through the lecture hall at Cambridge University, her voice carrying a weight that made her students shift uncomfortably in their seats. She knew something they didn't, something that had happened during her recent archaeological dig at Hadrian's Wall, something that would change everything we thought we knew about Roman Britain's darkest hour. 3 months earlier, Sarah had stood at the edge of a newly discovered chamber beneath Hadrian's Wall, her headlamp cutting through centuries of darkness. The beam revealed walls covered in unusual markings, not the typical Roman military inscriptions she'd spent her career studying, but something far more disturbing. The symbols seemed to pulse in the artificial light, creating patterns that made her eyes water and her head spin. "Professor Jenkins, you need to see this," she called out, her voice trembling slightly, but when she turned around, her colleague wasn't there. In fact, the entrance to the chamber had vanished, replaced by solid stone that looked as ancient as the rest of the structure. That's when the whispering began. At first, Sarah dismissed it as wind through the ancient stonework, a natural phenomenon she'd experienced countless times during her 20 years of fieldwork. But wind doesn't whisper in Latin, and it certainly doesn't beg for help. "Auxilium, auxilium, nos liberare." The voice grew stronger, accompanied by the distant sound of marching feet, thousands of them, echoing through solid stone. The temperature plummeted, her breath forming clouds in the beam of her headlamp. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like a giant chest, rising and falling. Sarah's scientific mind raced to explain what she was experiencing. She'd read accounts of archaeological sites with unusual acoustic properties, of underground chambers that played tricks with sound waves, but none of those accounts mentioned the smell of iron and sweat or the metallic tang of fresh blood. A figure emerged from the wall, a Roman legionnaire, his armor pristine, as if forged yesterday. But where his face should have been, there was only shadow. He raised his arm, pointing to the far wall, where the strange symbols glowed with an inner light. "Legio IX," he whispered. "We are trapped, all of us. The wall holds us." Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her camera. If she could just document this, prove what she was seeing. But the camera's screen showed only static, crackling with interference that shouldn't have been possible 70 feet underground. More figures emerged from the walls, dozens, then hundreds of soldiers, their armor gleaming in the darkness. They moved with purpose, forming ranks as if preparing for battle. At their head stood a tall figure wearing a commander's plume, the missing legate of the 9th Legion himself. "They didn't believe us," the legate's voice echoed in Sarah's mind. "When we reported what we found here, what lived in the darkness beyond the wall, Rome thought we were mad. They erased us from their records rather than face the truth." The chamber filled with images, memories of the Legion's last days. Sarah watched in horror as the scenes played out before her, the discovery of something ancient beneath the wall, something that predated not just Rome, but civilization itself. The desperate messages to Rome, begging for reinforcements, the final battle against an enemy that couldn't be killed because it had never truly been alive. "The wall wasn't built to keep the barbarians out," the legate continued. "It was built to keep something in, something that had slept since before the first humans walked these lands, something that woke when we began construction." Sarah's academic knowledge battled with what she was witnessing. The 9th Legion's disappearance had been one of history's greatest mysteries. Scholars had proposed countless theories, from military disaster to peaceful reassignment. None had suggested anything like this. The temperature dropped further. Frost crept across the walls, forming patterns that matched the glowing symbols. The legionnaires began to fade, their forms becoming transparent. "You must warn them." The legate's voice grew urgent. "They're drilling deeper now, using machines that shake the earth. The seals are weakening. What we sacrificed ourselves to contain is stirring again." Sarah felt something brush against her mind. Ancient, cold, and utterly alien. For a moment, she glimpsed what the Ninth Legion had faced, a consciousness vast and terrible that had slumbered in Earth's depths since before the dinosaurs walked. The legionnaires snapped to attention, raising their shields. "We hold the line," they chanted in unison. "We are the wall. We are the seal. We are the sacrifice that must not be forgotten." The chamber erupted in chaos. Sarah caught glimpses of a final, desperate battle, not fought with swords and spears, but with will and sacrifice. The Ninth Legion hadn't been destroyed or reassigned. They had willingly bound themselves into the wall itself, their combined strength creating a seal that contained something far worse than barbarian raids. As suddenly as it began, the vision ended. Sarah found herself alone in the chamber, her headlamp flickering weakly. But the walls were different now, covered in fresh inscriptions that told the true story of the Ninth Legion's fate. 2 days later, construction crews at a new development near Hadrian's Wall hit an unexpected cavity. Before anyone could investigate, the ground collapsed, swallowing several pieces of heavy equipment. From the hole came sounds that no human throat could make. Sarah's phone rang. It was the British Museum. "Dr. Blackwood." The curator's voice was tense. "We need you at the wall immediately. Something's happening to the stones. They're changing." As she packed her gear, Sarah glanced at her reflection in the mirror. For a moment, she thought she saw something else. A shadow of Roman armor. A glimpse of a legion's eagle standard. The wall had shared its secret with her. Now she had to decide: reveal the truth and risk being labeled mad, or stay quiet and watch as modern development awakened something that an entire legion had died to contain. The choice was taken from her hands the next morning. All along Hadrian's Wall, the stones began to glow with an inner light. And in museums across Europe, every artifact ever recovered from the wall started to whisper in Latin, "They are coming. The wall weakens. The Ninth holds the line, but we need help." Lesson learned. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, and some sacrifices echo through the centuries. The true heroes aren't always those who win battles, but those who silently hold the line against dangers too terrible to name. What would you do if you were in Sarah's position? Would you risk your professional reputation to warn the world, or would you stay quiet, knowing that some truths are too dangerous to be believed? Share your thoughts below. But remember, sometimes the walls themselves are listening.